So welcome back to our JavaScript course. So in the last class we learned how to add any property to an object, how to delete and how to nest property within an object. So in this class we're going to start learning how to display object. So JavaScript object can be displayed by displaying the object property by name, or we can display the object property in a loop, or using the object.values function method, or lastly using the JSON.stringify. So let's try to see how to display object using the object property by name, for instance. So let's go back to our code editor. So inside the student object here, so let's create a method within it. So I'm going to call this method as courses register. Okay, I think I missed my courses registered. Okay, so now then let's create our regular function. So function. So let's open our bracket here. Okay, so we're going to return this. So let's use our template string. Okay, so now let's say now we want to access that's just going to display the name of the courses that the user the register. Okay, and now let's say now, so now let's use let's say now this dot. So within it here we want to access the courses, then dot here, then we say one, for instance. Okay, that's for the first one, and the second one here. So let me just quickly copy it to save time here. Because it's register, let me just use comma here. So let me see here to be 2, comma here, and lastly here to be 3 here. Okay. So now this is the method here. Okay, the course is registered here. So now let's try to use the console.log to just see how it is here. Okay, so now let's say now here. So now we're going to say welcome, and we're going to embed the name of the student here. So welcome, then student dot name. Okay, welcome Piccolo. So let's have a comma. Yes, say now you have registered. Okay, so now let's just display the courses that the user registered. So now students dot then the courses registered. Okay, so now let's cross our fingers and go back to the browser and refresh to see what we have. Okay, hope we don't have any errors. So you see now, welcome Piccolo, we have registered, and it's going to display the function. So how are we going to rectify a thing to display? Yeah, so I know what we miss here is we forgot to add since it is a method here, this is what we forgot to add. So Ctrl S to save it. So let's go back to the browser and refresh. You see now we have it. Welcome Piccolo, we have registered HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Okay, so that's the first method. So then the second method is by using loop, for instance. Okay, so now instead of us to just like how we did create a function here and just be typing here, so we can just use a loop to loop through the courses here. Okay, so let me just leave it here for the meantime here. So now let's see now. So we're going to use loop to loop within the properties here. So let's create a variable, let's say courses. Okay, so now let's just leave it to be empty. Okay, so now we're going to use the for loop. So we've already learned about loops, so we can go back to the previous videos to learn more about them. So let's say loop here. So now let's say now let student in student that courses. Okay, so what we are trying to do is we just create a variable, we call it student, then we are going to loop within the student object and these courses here. So that's basically what we did here. So we are going to concatenate the add the value state plus and add. So in the assignment operators, so we have learned about that here. Okay, now so let's say students dot courses dot courses. Then we want to access the student here. Okay, so we're going to, let me just, let's have a template string here. Confuse you, don't be confused. Okay, so it's going to be a variable here, bracket here. Okay, the variable here. Now I'm going to have a comma. Okay, a comma like this here. Okay, so now let me just explain what I did here. So I created a loop here. So I initiated let student inside this object student. Then we're going to this property within it, the courses here. So we're going to loop based on the number of the courses within it here. So we have already declared the courses here and we initiate it to be empty. So now this is going to add the first one, that's HTML. Then it's going to loop again and add the second one, CSS, up to the end of the loop here. So now let's say now we can have welcome student name, and we are going to say you have registered. So instead of this method here now, so we can just add courses here. Okay, so now let's cross our fingers and see whether we don't have any error. You see, we still have the same thing here. Okay, so basically that's using loop. For instance, let's say now, for instance, let's say you added the next one here. So let's say Tailwind, and save it. Let's say now, okay, so we confused, so that's no cost complete, cost full. I refresh here. You see, automatically the system is going to pick it up for you. So basically that's using loop. So in the next video, I'm going to learn how using the object values and lastly using JSON stringify. So to meet in the next class.